And joining us for more on these tariffs and the potential impact in days to come, we have Mr. Nilesh Shah, who's a member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Thank you so much, Mr. Shah, for joining us here at Times Now. To begin with, I want to bring into the fact that we've seen India's response about how farmers remain our top priority. We're also looking at how India is prepared to pay the price for protecting their interests has been stated. How do you evaluate India's response so far to Trump's tariff imposition? And is this really the crux of where the roadblock between India and US is? Because we expect there's a US team that's going to come in by the end of the month as well. Is this the main bone of contention?
As Henry Kissinger mentioned, it is dangerous to be America's enemy, but to be America's friend is also fatal. India is behaving like a friend and US is becoming unreasonable. The largest buyer of oil is China. The country which is violating sanction on Iran and Myanmar is China. The largest buyer of Russian gas is European Union. And America continues to buy fertilizers, chemicals, and other things from Russia. And yet they are singling out India for levying tariff for purchase of Russian oil. In fact, there is a video of ex-American ambassador saying that we encourage Indians to buy crude from Russia within the price cap imposed so that global crude supply demand remains balanced and prices don't go up. So clearly, India is behaving much more maturely. And obviously, as a country, we have to protect our interest. Today, American farmers are subsidized heaviest, largest in the entire world. The subsidy runs into hundreds of billions of dollars. You subsidize your farmer, you don't want to come under WTO norms. And then you expect India to open up its agriculture sector for you. That's not appropriate. And which is why we have to make our stand firmly and yet politely. The longer term interest of India and US are aligned. Both of us are democratic country. Both of us are in some sense competition with one country. And hence, hopefully senses will prevail.
Right. So we've seen how Goldman Sachs has projected that the 50% tariff on imports from India could reduce India's GDP growth by around 0.6 percentage points. Have you gone through this particular analysis? Because they had a similar analysis earlier when the 25% tariff was announced. What really could be the concerns here? And do we have a plan to tackle this kind of a dip as far as our projection in GDP is concerned if this does happen?
Undoubtedly, analysts are today trying to measure adverse impact of tariff measures on Indian GDP. But most analysts will fail in predicting the momentum or the human ingenuity which will be taken to escape out of this tariff. They are assuming that if we can't export to America, we won't be exporting to someone else. Well, if Americans don't want to eat Indian shrimps, maybe some other consumer will be there in some other market. Maybe Government of India can provide fiscal and monetary support to our exporters who are unduly getting impacted by the tariff. Maybe these tariffs will be temporarily and it will get suspended like a true TECO trade. So there are multiple variations possible. Today's estimate of impact on GDP on a status quo basis, that whatever we won't be able to export to America, we will not be able to export to other places.
Right.
There is also possibility that India stimulates its domestic economy. We have both fiscal and monetary space to stimulate our economy, and that could also compensate for the adverse impact of tariff. So the reality will be far different from status quo projections.
All right. So now we have a 20-day time gap before the second 25%, which takes it to 50%, comes into effect. What are your recommendations, apart from, of course, the fiscal stimuli that you spoke about? What else can India do to tackle this unfolding situation?
So essentially, we have to treat this crisis as an opportunity. In the 70s, America, which was giving us food grains under PL 480, stopped it when the liberalization campaign for Bangladesh began. And we had to invent or discover green revolution to get self-sufficiency in food grain. It did take some time, but thereafter, India had to rarely import food grains. Of course, we do import edible oils, pulses, and dry fruits, but wheat, rice, and such other food grains, today we are one of the largest producer. We have to empower our entrepreneurs. We have to retain talent in India to encourage innovation. And we have to free up our capital market so that capital is available to entrepreneurs to take risk on innovation. Between this Triveni Sangam of encouraging entrepreneurship, encouraging innovation, and providing capital for taking risks on innovation, I think India should be able to withstand adverse impact of US tariff.
Earlier, we've seen how Donald Trump has also gone to great lengths to provoke and demean India. He's called us and Russia, quote-unquote, dead economies. However, the IMF data itself shows how India has not just become the world's fourth largest economy, on the way to becoming the third largest, in fact, surpassing Japan. The IMF also projects India's growth forecast at 6.4% for 2025, reinforcing its status as the leaders, the fastest growing developing market and perhaps one of the biggest economies. Taking all of this in account, what conclusions do you draw from Trump's remark referring to India as a dead economy?
Well, judge a man by not what he speaks, but how he acts. Outside of America, the largest real estate activity Trump enterprise is taking is in India. If we were a dead economy, would he be able to do that? Answer is clearly no. One of our journalists did ask President Trump a question that America itself is importing from Russia chemicals, fertilizers. Then why are you imposing sanction on India? And his answer was, I don't know. So sometimes ignorance can be a bliss. In our case, it is not bliss, but judge a man by what he does rather than what he speaks.
Right. And also, do you believe that, these recent actions of President Trump give India also an opportunity to rethink its strategic ties, hit the reset button when it comes to trade ties, for instance, because we know that Prime Minister is set to visit China to attend the SCO summit. We know the NSA has been in Russia. Should we view such visits as part of India perhaps recalibrating its strategic approach?
Essentially, this is the art of diplomacy where there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, but there is permanent interest. India has to protect its interest. We have been by and large, following Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam spirit. We send vaccines to many countries in the world, despite, keeping domestic audience at bay for a while. We didn't just give preference to domestic patients. We also took care of the world. This spirit is reciprocated by many countries, but there are few countries which does not necessarily reciprocate it in that manner. And hence, we should always be clear that there are no permanent friends, permanent enemies. There are permanent interests. We can aim to create win-win situation for us as well as outside world, as well as our partner. But at the end of the day, it should be a win-win for both rather than lose-win as proposed by American policy.
True. Also, as far as Donald Trump's 50% tariff to India is concerned, Congress leader and Member of Parliament Shashi Tharoor has said, and I'm quoting what he stated, he says it will definitely have an impact because our trade with US is worth $90 billion, and if everything becomes 50% more expensive, buyers will question why they should buy Indian products. If they impose such tariffs, we should also respond by imposing a 50% tariff on American exports. Currently, our average tariff on American goods is 17%. So why should we stop at 17%? We should raise it to 50%. If India doesn't matter to them, then they shouldn't matter to us, unquote. Do you think that this would be a wise course of action?
So my recommendation will be there is American team visiting for tariff negotiation on 25th of this month. We can sit with them. Whether they'll be reasonable or not, we don't know. But we can present the true picture. The Russian war on Ukraine itself may come to an end as President Putin and President Trump are likely to meet in next week. Second, the biggest financiers of Russia is not just India, but way ahead of us is China, European Union, and hence it is unreasonable to single out India. Third, there is also aspect of security. Today, India has provided much of the software used by America. We haven't added any virus, any cybersecurity risk. Imagine if this software was made in China. Today, they would not have known what kind of risks they had carried. So we must bring this security aspect in front of America.
Right.
And finally, we also have to put numbers. There are 300,000 Indian students studying in America at $50,000 per capita fees and $25,000 or $50,000 per capita expenses. That's a substantial amount.
Right.
17 lakh Indians travel to America, some to visit their families, some for travel and tourism. At $10,000, that's also a substantial amount. We have allowed American companies from Microsoft to Twitter to Facebook to Google to Amazon to operate in India. They don't get same freedom in China. And they make substantial money out of India. It may not be accounted in American balance sheet as those will be booked in Nassau, Bahamas and Dublin, Ireland and so on and so forth. I think we need to present total picture in front of American government if we haven't done it already and seek a balance from security point of view, from reciprocity point of view, from reasonable point of view. And if they still don't understand, then certainly, as Chanakya mentioned, Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, all four options should be open to us. But first, we should try to be reasonable in creating a win-win situation. When US buys software from us, they also get security. When they buy solar cell from China, they also get killer switch.
That's very significant. And you mentioned Taco a short while earlier. Trump always chickens out is something that has been stated a lot. But considering how Donald Trump has been seen as pretty unpredictable over the past several months, how far do you feel that he will go to assert his dominance in the case of India? And do you also believe that these actions might ultimately backfire on the US in the long term?
So essentially, while we are dealing with unpredictability, the interests are aligned. And eventually, any sane person will realize which side the bread is buttered. Undoubtedly, we benefit from trade with America, but America also benefits by virtue of talent of Indians. Many of their Fortune 500 companies are run by Indians. Many of their technological innovation has happened thanks to Indian talent. Their security risk is definitely managed by Indians thanks to all the software which we produce without any virus, without any cybersecurity threat. Our interests are aligned. I believe what we have hit is an air pocket, and eventually better senses will prevail as sane voices from both the sides will try to come together. And we did see Nikki Haley putting on X that, look, our enemy number one is China, and they are the largest buyer of oil from Russia. And we are hitting a friend like India, which is not right.
Right. Also, lastly, I'd like to ask you about the kind of speculation that we've seen over the past few days. A number of sectors such as textiles, leather industry, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, of course, could be bearing the brunt of these tariffs. What is your assessment of the net impact, and how severe do you feel that the impact could be? Is it something that we should be bracing for? Is it something that we can avoid in terms of the total impact on the Indian economy?
Well, for planning, we have to assume the worst, even though there will be variety of options available. There will be sectors like textiles, aquaculture, chemicals, auto components, which will be hit by tariff, and we'll have to find alternate market. One big market is European Union. We can engage with them to ensure that what we were exporting to US can be exported over there. Combined European Union is as big as America. The second big market is China. They run $100 billion trade surplus with India. We can again engage with them to create some sort of reciprocity. I believe we can work to divert some of our exports to other markets. We can provide some sort of fiscal incentive to our exporters to withstand some of the tariff impact. And third, we can stimulate our economy in a positive way by improving ease of doing business, by retaining Indian talent and encouraging innovation. Put together, can we come better from this shock? Answer is absolutely yes. It all depends upon execution.
Right. Mr. Nilesh Shah, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us right here at Times Now on the Trump tariffs.